Hey guys, remember to check out our Saber shop, Fantasy Sabers. It's the first link in the description. Let's start today's story during the age of the Galactic Republic. Mace Windu, a powerful and respected Jedi Knight, is on a mission in the Outer Rim where he senses a large disturbance in the Force on the planet he has just arrived on, Tatooine. The Master follows the calls of the Force to a small pawn shop where he meets a young boy named Anakin. Through their first meeting, Windu feels that something is very different about this boy. He smells the Force, but not in a way that a Jedi would, but more in a way that a Force object would. He's procured many children of the Force before, but this one was different. It's like a cave having a strong connection to the Force, the same atmosphere or smelling fresh grass. The boy is radiating with midichlorians. Windu knows that he has to have the boy tested to confirm his suspicions. After taking a blood sample discreetly, Mace discovers a midichlorian count of over 20,000, the highest ever recorded. He doesn't understand. How can someone have a count that quite literally exceeds Master Yoda, the most powerful Jedi of their era? Anakin must be a virgin in the Force. He needs to be trained. Windu is a Jedi who remains true to his principles. He understands that the boy is 9 years old and that he is too old to be trained. But he also understands that leaving a boy with this potential is simply irresponsible. He thinks back to the children he heard of being trained around 100 years earlier when she was 8 years old, named Osha. The Master's mind was set. He had already grown some sort of attachment to this boy. Windu would take Anakin to Coruscant, where he would introduce him to the Council. As Windu takes Anakin back to Coruscant, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan would enter the Tatooine system, following the same timeline as original. From the onset, Windu had much more sway over the Council as he was second in command to Yoda. If he gives his opinion on such a matter as this, then it is taken much more seriously than if Qui-Gon is simply contesting the Council, an action he has done numerous times. The Council tells Windu they will think about it. After session, Windu would speak with Master Yoda. If Yoda is swayed, then it will happen. Although Yoda doesn't like it, he knows the potential dangers of starting training this late, especially a boy who comes from such an unsatisfactory background. But he trusts his friend and believes in his judgment. Thus, the boy is granted the permission to be trained. Windu's recent apprentice, Depa Billaba, has passed the trials and become a Jedi Knight, granting Windu the ability to train Anakin. Anakin's training under Mace Windu will be intense and strict, focused on discipline and control. Windu was known for his unique style of lightsaber combat called the Pod, and he would teach Anakin this advanced form. The Pod is a powerful fighting style that channels the user's inner darkness, turning it into a weapon against their enemies without falling to the dark side. Anakin, under Windu's guidance, would learn to tap into his own anger and fear, but use them constructively instead of letting them control him. As a result, Anakin would become comfortable with the darker aspects of the Force, learning how to balance them with the light. Mace would sense Anakin's natural aggression and passion and channel it into honing his skills, resulting in Anakin becoming one of the most formidable Jedi warriors of his time. Over time, Anakin would grow to respect Mace's wisdom and would adopt a more balanced approach to the Force, seeing it as a tool that requires both light and dark to be fully understood. Anakin would be chosen by a purple lightsaber crystal, like Mace's, symbolizing his balance between light and dark. As they fought through missions together during his training, Anakin would excel in the Vapod style, becoming known for his raw speed, power, and precision. However, this training would also make him more attuned to the dark side than any other Jedi, aware of its temptations but believing he could control it through constant subtle manipulation. Anakin would grow to be a more confident and assertive Jedi, less conflicted about his emotions and more determined to find his own path, even if it meant bending the Jedi code. This unique balance would make him more powerful, respected, and feared, but also unpredictable, as he would learn to embrace his darker emotions without being consumed by them. Under Windu's training, Anakin would remain strict on his Jedi principles and would not fall in love with Padme Amidala. This was also due to the fact that he never met her as a kid growing up, since he was taken to the Jedi Temple by Windu before meeting the Queen. By the time Anakin Anakin was 19 years old, he was extremely powerful, and his strength had exceeded that of the original timeline. As for Palpatine, when he learned that the Chosen One had been found, he was immediately intrigued. Though his inspection of the boy wouldn't last long, as when he learned of Windu becoming his master, he knew that there was little to no chance of turning Anakin to the dark side. Under Kenobi's training, there was always going to be weaknesses, but Windu would easily ensure that his apprentice doesn't become consumed by the dark side. Because of this, he continued with the original plan of the cloners, just without Anakin. Eventually, the Clone Wars would break out and the Republic was thrusted into warfare.
Hey guys, did you want to be a Jedi or Sith for Halloween? Then our Halloween bundles from Fantasy Sabers are perfect for you. This includes your own Jedi gown in black or brown, accompanied by an assortment of sabers to choose from at a crazy discounted price. If the costume isn't for you, then we're offering a free belt clip, as well as 10% off every replica and some Padawan sabers with the code Halloween up until the 31st of October. With the belt clip, all you have to do is simply slide the clip on any standard belt, and the saber attaches perfectly through either the D-ring or Kovatek wheel. Please check the product description before you purchase, as there are a few sabers that are not compatible with the belt clip. Check out these deals on our website, the first link in the description.
During the Clone Wars, Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker fought side by side, quickly gaining a reputation for their fierce and ruthless tactics. They began using darker techniques to win battles, channeling their anger and aggression into powerful attacks that left the Separatists fearful. Mace and Anakin would often push deeper into enemy lines, using the Force to crush droids and disarm enemies with overwhelming power, showing little mercy. They started to believe that they could use their brute strength alone to win the war. Since they knew their combined strength, they were unstoppable against any army. They would use force pushes that sent enemies flying and force choke to subdue or frighten opponents. Their enemies saw an unstoppable and terrifying force. But the other Jedi began to worry. There were reports of them becoming harsh and unforgiving, using methods that seemed more like those of a Sith compared to the Jedi. They would destroy entire battalions, not giving the Separatists a chance to surrender, and sometimes they would let their anger guide their actions. The Jedi Council became concerned, seeing how Mace and Anakin were allowing the darkness to take over, feeling that they were losing their way and breaking the Jedi Code. Palpatine was watching and began to notice how their use of the dark side made them more effective in battle, and he decided to develop a plan. He saw an opportunity to twist their actions to his advantage, thinking he could use their growing darkness to turn them against the Jedi Order itself. The more Mace and Anakin relied on their dark techniques, the more they drifted away from the light, and the tension within the Jedi Order grew stronger. This apparent separation from Anakin and Windu against the rest of the Order confused Windu, and he spoke to Yoda about this. He explained that he wasn't doing anything that he hadn't always done. Yoda had known for many decades that Windu held inherent darkness within him, similar to Skywalker, and that he learned to channel and control this darkness, and this is why his saber is purple. But what concerned the Grand Master was how the rest of the Order was reacting. It gave the impression that the Chosen One was using the dark side and being ruthless to people, but in doing this, he was becoming more powerful and more successful in battles. The largest voices from within the Order were coming from both masters and apprentices who had lost their teacher and students. If they were allowed to use the dark side like Anakin and Mace did for a quick and short-lasting burst in power, then perhaps their friends would still be alive. Windu would absolutely rebut this and say that it is ridiculous, and even the notion that he and Anakin were being cruel on the battlefield. Even though Yoda believed Windu that the stories were being taken out of proportion, it didn't matter. What mattered was the message being spread around the Order. Because of this, he asked Windu to refrain from using his abilities until the drama stopped. This absolutely infuriated Windu, and he believed Yoda was making a massive mistake, but he would obey the commands of his Grand Master. What followed was a string of losses for the Republic. Anakin and Windu first lost 2 battles in a row, and in the following week, Kenobi and his apprentice Ahsoka Tano lost the Battle of Ryloth. Skywalker and Windu believed that they were being treated as children during a time of war, and the decisions from the Council were costing the Republic millions of lives, just so they could keep their public image. Because of this, they discarded what Yoda wished, and in their next mission, they used their abilities to their maximum and completely destroy their opponent, gaining the largest victory to date in the war. However, the consequences of doing this would be dire. Windu is summoned in front of the Council. Yoda calmly explains to Windu that his use of the dark side, though controlled, is causing problems. He once again explains what he did in their previous conversation, that the other Jedi see Mace and Anakin using dark techniques and believe there is special treatment for them. Yoda warns that this is creating confusion and conflict among the Jedi, leading to some question the Jedi code and others to believe they should use the dark side too. Yoda suggests that Windu should take a step back and take a lesser role in the Jedi, to calm the tension and show that the dark side cannot be used without consequence. From here, there are two ways this story can go. 1. Windu agrees and takes a lesser role. The Republic would then slowly win the war as they were already in a dominant position. Or 2. Windu disagrees and believes that it is because of him and his way of using the Force that the Republic is in such a good position. He tells Yoda that the Jedi should be able to teach this side of the Force. His arrogance and dogma make him believe in his abilities even more. I personally think option 2 is more fun and interesting. When Windu heard Yoda tell him to take a step down in the order, he went absolutely crazy, his rage boiling. He couldn't believe what was happening. The Jedi were fools. They were going to lose this war with this logic. He knows that the success of the Republic in the war is because of his methods, not in spite of them. He believes that his way is the right way, and that the Jedi should be allowed to use both sides of the Force, dark and light. Windu feels his strength and the control he has over his dark emotions prove he is right. His confidence grows and he sees Yoda's caution as weakness. He insists that the Jedi should be taught to embrace both sides of the Force, convinced that this is the key to victory. Yoda feels deep concerned, but senses that Windu's arrogance and stubbornness are too strong now. As Windu leaves, the divide in the Jedi Order widens, with some beginning to side with him and others staying true to the old ways. The seeds of discontent and chaos grow even deeper within the Order. The outcome of this conversation places everything in turmoil. The entire Order splits, some of them remaining traditional, whilst others who believe there is more to the Force follow Windu and Anakin, dubbing themselves Grey Jedi. The Grey Jedi, with about 4,000 members, leave Coruscant and make their base on the Jedi homeworld of Tython, declaring themselves a separate order. Mace Windu becomes their Grand Master, leading them with the belief that using both light and dark sides of the Force makes them stronger. The war would grow even larger and more confusing, with 3 factions now: the traditional Jedi, the Grey Jedi, and the Separatists. Even though the Grey Jedi are still fighting for the Republic and have their own clone armies, it becomes an internal conflict within the Jedi Order themselves. On the battlefield, the Grey Jedi and the traditional Jedi sometimes find themselves facing the same enemy, the Separatists. But when they cross paths, they turn against each other, Jedi fighting Jedi in a deadly civil war. Meanwhile, the clones stand confused, unsure of whom to support in this Jedi conflict. They do not shoot their fellow clones, so there is chaos all around as they try to continue their mission while their Jedi leaders battle among themselves. The battlefields are a mess of confusion and mistrust, with allies turning against one another and enemies lurking everywhere, making it hard to see who is truly on whose side. The war grows darker, more complex, and more dangerous with each day passing. As the war went on, the split between the Jedi and the Grey Jedi created new opportunities for victory. With both sides fighting together against the Separatists, there were more Jedi on the battlefield than ever before. Instead of 2 Jedi leading battles, there were often 4, making it easier to win more fights. On the Jedi homeworld, Mace Windu and Anakin taught their followers how to use the dark side safely. They showed them how to let their dark side energy fuel their force powers without letting it take over their minds or hearts. This training was intense and demanding, but it made the Grey Jedi stronger and more fearless in battle. The dark side they're learning isn't that intense, it's the Jedi's version of it. It wasn't like they acted as dark as Sidious did, but instead taking Windu's level of darkness during the Revenge of the Sith. He allowed it to guide him and give him a small amount of strength, but it didn't consume him. Over the years, the war dragged on, with no clear end in sight. Anakin continued to grow stronger under Windu's guidance, learning how to balance the light and dark sides of the Force in a way that no one had before. His power became unmatched, far beyond anything seen in the original timeline. He was now one of the strongest beings in the galaxy, feared by his enemies and respected by his allies. Every time he fought, he seemed almost unstoppable, his strength and skills making him nearly invincible. The war transformed him, and he became a legend in his own right. A warrior unlike any other, who could wield both the light and the dark with perfect control. When the Separatists invaded Christophsis, Jedi and Grey Jedi were sent to defend. The battle began with intense fighting from both sides. Anakin and his apprentice, Barriss Offee, led the charge for the Grey Jedi, while Plo Koon and Obi-Wan attacked from the opposite side for the traditional Jedi. Each group fought fiercely through the defenses, cutting through droids and blasting their way towards the main control room. When they arrived, they found Count Dooku waiting, calmly commanding his troops. Without hesitation, they leaped into the fight. Dooku, a master duelist, used their conflict against them, moving swiftly to avoid their strikes whilst letting the Jedi clash among themselves. Anakin's lightsaber locked with Obi-Wan's and sparks flew as they pushed against each other. Meanwhile, Barriss, less experienced, lost her footing and stumbled, leaving herself open to Dooku's blade, but it barely missed. Anakin's heart jumped at the sight, and Obi-Wan seized the moment to reason with him, saying that they had to put aside their differences and focus on the real enemy. Though Anakin barely knew Obi-Wan, he understood the truth in his words. They had a common goal, defeating Dooku. Reluctantly, Anakin nodded, and they turned their attention to the Count. Now united, their attacks became coordinated, each move complementing the other. Plo Koon and Barriss kept Dooku distracted, while Anakin and Obi-Wan struck with all of their might. The combined strength of their efforts overwhelmed Dooku, who, despite his skill, could not keep up with the relentless attacks. Finally, with a final powerful blow, they managed to bring him down, ending his command over the Separatist forces on Christophsis. After Dooku fell, the room filled with a tense silence. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Plo Koon, and Barriss stood there, unsure of what to do next. Obi-Wan was breathing heavily, and he tried to reason with Anakin. He spoke about how their conflict was tearing apart the Jedi and weakening them against their true enemies, the Sith and the Separatists. But Anakin was still fired up from the fight and pushed back. He argued that it was the Jedi who had forced him into the situation, refusing to see that there could be another way to use the Force. He blamed the Jedi for not allowing the Grey Jedi to truly be a part of their order, saying that everything that had happened was their fault. Plo was watching the exchange and felt a mixture of frustration and deep understanding. He didn't fully disagree with Anakin's words. What they had just experienced, fighting side by side against Dooku and winning, showed that they had to be stronger together and not apart. Plo suggested that maybe it was time to reconsider their positions and at least try to work together again. The two sides stared at each other, uncertain but not hostile. They agreed that they would speak to their masters about what had happened here. There was no promise of peace, but at least there was a chance for a conversation. Windu was uncertain about joining forces with the Jedi again. He believed his Grey Jedi were stronger because they embraced both the sides of the Force. But Yoda, seeing the greater threat, agreed to work together. He explained that their unity was needed to defeat the true enemy. Although Windu was still unsure, he trusted Yoda's wisdom and agreed to a temporary alliance. They hoped this would bring balance and end the war. With Dooku gone, the combined strength of the Jedi and Grey Jedi began to crush the Separatist forces. Battle after battle, the droid armies fell apart without their leaders. Soon, Grievous was hunted down and killed in combat, leaving the Separatists in complete chaos. Palpatine, seeing his plans unravel, was forced to step into the battlefield himself. This made him much more vulnerable, and although the Separatists would be able to win some battles with him on the field, he couldn't sustain this long term. He was only able to battle for a few days at a time, since people would notice that the Chancellor was disappearing so often. Things were not going well, and Palpatine didn't know what to do. He flew to Moonlist, where he joined a gigantic battle which was fierce and chaotic. Palpatine, alone and cornered, fought with desperation. His dark powers surged as he battled the remaining forces. He unleashed powerful force attacks and deadly lightsaber strikes, pushing back the remaining enemies. Just as it seemed like he might win, the tide began to turn. The Jedi and Grey Jedi arrived, their numbers and strength shifting the balance. Anakin, Windu, Obi-Wan and Barriss charged into the fray, their lightsabers blazing with determination. The four of them moved in perfect coordination, each using their unique lightsaber skills to overwhelm Palpatine. Windu's mastery of Vapod, Anakin's raw power, Obi-Wan's skill and Barriss's precision combined in a deadly dance. Palpatine struggled to keep up as the four Jedi closed in on him. Despite his best efforts, the relentless assault from all sides proved too much. They struck him down with a final powerful blow, ending his dark reign and bringing peace to the galaxy. With Palpatine defeated and the Clone Wars finally over, the galaxy breathed a sigh of relief. The Jedi and Grey Jedi gathered to discuss their future. They sat together in the Great Hall of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, their discussions filled with hope and anticipation. After much debate, they decided to combine their beliefs, creating a new Jedi Order that mixed the old ways with the fresh, new ideas. Windu suggested that Yoda and Anakin should become co-chancellors. When Anakin wondered why Yoda didn't choose himself for this role, Windu explained that he was ready to step back and let his apprentice take the lead. He wanted to see Anakin fulfill his potential and guide the Jedi into a bright future. The galaxy, now at peace, looked forward to a new era where the Jedi Order would be stronger and more unified than ever before.
Ignite your imagination with fantasy sabers.
If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Mace Windu Trusted Anakin and What If Qui-Gon Joined the Council and Trained Anakin. Please check out our saber shop Fantasy Sabers for the largest collection of replica sabers, Padawan sabers and many more. The link is first in the description. Thank you all for watching and may the Force be with you.